It is cold in Michigan. It's like 6 degrees today. So we're wearing this winter coat with the heater on. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we're gonna do a review on something I've been on the fence about. The Harbor Freight Jack Plane. Yeah, number 4 Jack, they call it a Jack. The Harbor Freight number 4 Jack Plane and block plane mini plane set. This is a weird name. They named it weird. This is actually a smoothing plane and a block plane. I'm not sure why they called it a number 4 Jack and a mini plane set, but whatever. So after a lot of your comments, I've got mixed reviews on this. Some say this is great, some say this is bad. I reviewed the Windsor Design hand plane a while ago, and that plane was just horrible. This one is even cheaper than that one, and you get 2 planes with it, plastic handles. I'm not expecting a lot out of it, but from looking at the box and reviews that I've seen, it doesn't look terrible offhand. It does look very similar to a Stanley number 4. So I'm not going to mess with the block plane today just because that looks really bad. We'll take a quick look at it, but I want to open the number 4 inside of here, kind of put it together, go through it, look at it, see how flat it is, see how sharp it is out the box, and see what we can do to get this thing maybe working. So previously when I was in Harbor Freight, I did see this plane, and it was in like that plastic blister pack type thing. And I looked at it and was like, I don't know. And I don't know why, but this past time I went through and they've switched to a cardboard box now. And that feels more traditional with hand planes. Like hand planes used to come in their own cardboard boxes. This one by no means is anywhere near the quality of those, but I don't know. I don't know why, but I decided, you know what? I have to see it for myself. Let's see. I've already ripped the box trying to get this thing open. You can't open it from the top, apparently. So it's from the bottom. Might just be that everything's freezing cold out. All right. Let's see what's inside. First thing they give you here is the mini plane is in its own little box here. Keep calling it a mini plane. It's a block plane. Just call it by the right thing. Yeah, this is going to be a hunk of junk. I just tell you off the rip. And they did at least, looks like they did some effort to flatten the bottom. I highly doubt that's flat. There's a bunch of just machine oil and stuff on it. That's fine. This plastic kind of spin knob that puts tension on the blade. There's no way to really advance it. It's kind of like a, hammer it in. The blade is really far out and crooked, but we'll see. We'll get into that maybe in another video. Let me know if you want me to review this. As of now, this is all I'm going to show on this. This is their mini block plane. Just telling you off the rip, this is kind of junk. So let's get into the star of the show, the number 4. Let's take a look at this out of the box. To start, they put stickers on the side of it. I'm not sure why they would do that. We're going to have to get that off. They put them on both sides of the plane. So in order to use it, sometimes you need to use the side of your plane, especially on smoothing boards or shooting boards and things like that. You're going to want to use the side. There's not a lot of cheeks on this thing, so I don't know that I would use it on a shooting board. But if it's your only plane, it's kind of your only option. It's something. The handles are just plastic handles, and there's a pretty rough seam on the knob here up front. It is going to be painful after 20 minutes of planing in your hand on this. It's going to hurt. So we'll see if we can sand that down or what we can do with it. The back, the tote on the back, this handle on the back, that's the tote. That also has a pretty rough seam going right down, right where your thumb and your finger are going to meet. That's going to rub and that's going to hurt. It's got some real thick black paint on the actual sole, but some of the positives. Let's see. It does have the Stanley kind of chip breaker on the top, that Stanley style lever on the top. The blade looks fairly thick, probably not as thick as a Stanley, but it's fairly thick. The chip breaker's kind of thin. I mean, everything is a little rough, you know, machining wise. The sides of it and stuff are a little bit rough. The lever cap on the top, they did kind of take some effort to polish it up a little bit. It's got that kind of kidney shaped hole that it locks into this screw. So far, it seems okay compared to the Windsor design one that we couldn't get to really hold down. And it does have a depth adjustment knob that is, oh boy. Let's loosen this up a little, maybe. Maybe this is just cranked on tight. Yeah, they really torqued that thing down. Well, so that's concerning. I can't. There we go. There. Okay. So let's see. We have a depth adjustment knob that is. Oh. Okay. Well, that might not be good. Well, we may have the same problem that we always have with these Harbor Freight planes. When you press down on it, it doesn't lock. Okay, maybe it does need to be a lot tighter. Oh no. So this is the same problem Harbor Freight has had now on every plane they've had, is they cannot figure out how to get this thing to retain. As soon as you just put the slightest little bit of pressure up on it, it pulls up and lets go. It's something about this like kidney shape, this kidney bean shape that they have that just does not want to lock in. And I don't know why. But anyway, he's spending a lot of time doing this. All right, let's break this thing down. We already have problems out of the gate, which is not giving me a whole lot of confidence, but we'll see what's going on. So far, this the cap on top, the lever cap, will not lock in. Maybe if we press it. No, like Harbor Freight, come on, man. This is not that difficult to figure out. Here is what it's compared to. This is the Stanley number 4. If we look at them side by side, the Harbor Freight or Central Forge one is probably about an inch, maybe a half inch longer than the Stanley number 4. That's okay though. It's definitely not a number 5. It's about the same. Let's say it's about the same width. Maybe this might be a little bit narrower, but as far as the parts look, it kind of looks the same, right? You've got your knobs, you've got your caps, your chip breakers, your blades, you've got your lateral adjustment levers on the back here that will straighten the blade out, and you've got your depth adjustment knobs here. So it's all kind of the same. They even went as far as making the frog adjustable on the back with a screw. So they did a really good copy of a Stanley number 4. The issue is with this, I can come to this number 4 and I can pull up on this cap and that's not going anywhere. And I just quickly loosen up and that's where it happens. So this number 4 here on this Harbor Freight, this is torqued down. It's tight. Like even if I tighten the screw even a little bit more, like that's ridiculously tight. All I have to do is just pull up a little bit on that and that lets go. And as you're working, that's all it's going to take is that little bit of upward movement and pressure as you're planing wood and it pops off. And I'm not sure where they failed here. I think the failure is, if you look at these two side by side, the Stanley hooks around just a little bit more than this one. And I think that's where the issue lies. That and the fact that the screw might be too small. So if we take the blade and the chip breaker out and we do the same on our Stanley, if you look at the two screws that hold the blades down, the shaft on the Stanley is a lot thicker than the one on the Harbor Freight or the Central Forge. That might be causing the issue why it can't lock in well. It may be that this little hook in here in the top of the kidney bean shape there is just not deep enough, and it's not allowing that screw to really set in there and lock in. I'm not sure. I'm not seeing any more differences really than this cap is maybe a little bit shorter than the Stanley, but everything else looks to be about the same. I mean, the castings are definitely much worse on this one. Like, that's not even lined up. Like, this side is much shorter than that, if you could see that. So, I mean, just the quality is not really there. But as far as locking this screw down, I don't know, man. I just don't know what they're doing here. Like, I can even almost push this down closed like that and then just, well, okay, maybe it takes just a tremendous amount of force, but I'm worried that that amount of force is going to start flexing the blade. So, like, even when it's up, if I screw it down that hard, it's hard to get off. That's not the most ideal. Okay, so I've been sitting here for the past 10 minutes staring at this thing and thinking of all the things I need to do to get this usable. But that's not why you've watched this video. So to start, this plane is horrible. It is not a tool. I bought this number 4 at a swap meet for 10 bucks, I think, and restored it in an afternoon. The amount of machining and work I would have to do to make this plane even remotely usable, it would be, you just go buy a new plane. Just go buy a new plane. I'm really pissed about this. This thing sucks. But either way, let's get into it. So we have obviously our issues with this retaining cap, this retention cap. The kidney shape is not drilled big enough, and the screw on here is not fat enough to fit tightly in that hole. So it causes slop and it makes it pop out super easy. It just slides right out. All they have to do is just machine this a little bit more. So we're going to go through the things as I'm going through this of all the stuff you'd have to do. You'd have to fix this cap, machine that cap over bigger. You would have to find a bigger, thicker shouldered screw that would fit in this and drill and tap the frog underneath to make this work. I would also replace it with a screw that is not made out of tin foil, because this thing is already mushroomed over just from me putting a screwdriver on it a couple times, and I didn't even slip out of the slot. So there's that. Underneath is the blade and chip breaker set. If you can see the screw, there's a screw that holds the chip breaker and the blade together. Here's the head. It goes through the blade and into the chip breaker. If you notice on the Stanley, here's the Stanley's head compared to the Harbor Freight. A lot thicker, squared off, nice. This one I haven't even taken apart yet, and it's already mauled up from them just putting it together. But the key thing is on the back, the screw barely protrudes past the blade, where this one is way past the blade. Why that's an issue is when you put it in the plane like this, you've got this big screw sticking out, and when the cap's on, I think this screw is getting in the way of the retention cap, and it's putting pressure on here and not allowing it to press hard on there. So another thing you'd have to do is grind the screw down to be flat. So you could kind of do that with a grinder or something. So that is somewhat doable, but let's take this thing off and take a look at it. The blade looks somewhat serviceable. It's probably super soft steel, so that means you could sharpen it really easy, but it's not going to hold an edge too long. You're going to have to sharpen it quite a bit. And then the chip breaker is just a piece of stamped steel. It's in no way flat on this edge here, so you'd have to sand this edge down to make a better meet with the blade, so that you don't get chips and things or shavings underneath there clogging it up. Everything, this is really thin. It's just kind of thin, cheap feeling. But back to the plane, the frog does not look terrible. It does have this lateral adjustment lever. However, right here, the tab that should be going up underneath in this groove, that should be setting in there as the blade is on the plane, is bent down. So you'd have to bend that up so that it lines up a little bit better with that blade. I don't know why that's bent that bad, but let's see. Just put a little pressure on with a screwdriver. And problem solved there. So now that's adjusting better. The part in here, take that off. So in here, this is the part that advances the blade. It locks into this groove in the chip breaker, and this is, as you screw the screw back and forth down here, the adjustment lever, this pushes down on the plane and advances or retracts the blade. You can see the difference in the width here. This one is a lot more stout. It doesn't have that much slop in it. You do want some slop in a plane, but not a lot. But this is just, look at the amount of slop, lateral slop and vertical slop. This thing is just barely hanging in there. That's not the best. All they had to do is put another piece of steel in there. But this is, again, where this is solid brass or solid cast, this is just two pieces of steel that they've stamp welded together. So it is what it is. The frog itself doesn't look terrible. Let's see. Again, we have screws on here that are made out of, some type of tin foil. They're just soft screws. You barely touch them and they mash up. So there's your screws that retain the frog. So here's your frog. They do give you a screw at the bottom to do a horizontal or adjust the frog back and forth. So let's see. On the bottom of the tote, they did take the paint off here and here. It's a little bit rough, but they did take the paint off so that the frog can slide on it. It's been sanded off here. However, underneath here on the frog, this should be smooth as well without paint on it. There's paint on that, so that's going to bind up as you're going back and forth. So you're going to want to take that off. This little clip here it's pretty thin, but it's not terrible. But again, you see all the slop in there. So that's not good. With the frog off, these handles, you can see these handles a little bit better now. That seam in there, like that's just rough. I take a little sandpaper on that, but I don't know, man. The mouth is just like jagged. If you can see in there or not, it's just rough, jagged cast metal that's just got a bunch of slag still left on it. Honestly, I'm not even going to try to fix this thing. This is just junk. I was thinking when I bought it. I'm like, okay, I knew the issue with the handles. And I was thinking, well, maybe I could steal them off the Windsor Design one because those are nice wood handles. And I'll replace the Windsor Design handles on here. And then I'll have a plane that's a little bit bigger because that Windsor Design one was too small. And I was like, all right, maybe that could work. And I could cobble two of them together and you'd still be under $50 between the two of them. And you could get maybe a serviceable plane out of it. But there's just nothing here to work with. This is junk. Don't buy this. All right, guys, that's it for today. I'm sorry if this video was a waste of time or if I just seem super ornery. It might just be because it's like 6 degrees in here and I'm freezing my butt off, and I was excited about this, and then I opened it and I just confirmed what everybody else was saying, that this thing is a hunk of shit. It's a paperweight now. That's all it's going to be. It's going to turn into a paperweight, and I'm going to display this on my wall of shame of things that I bought that I knew was bad going into it, but I bought it anyway, and then still somehow got disappointed that it turned out to be bad. And I have a long list of these things. I don't know that I should be proud of that. But either way, that's it for today. If you like this type of content, subscribe down below, give me a thumbs up, let me know in the comments if you bought this thing before. Does yours work? I know Harbor Freight does have a lot of quality control issues, so I may have just got a bad one, and maybe you got a good one, but from what I've heard, other than like a handful of people that have said, oh yeah, the thing's decent, you just got to put some work into it. Like, I don't want to put that much work into this thing. I want to just be able to go get a number 4 Stanley and go to town on it, take some rust off on it, sharpen the blade, and get to work. So we're still looking for a cost-effective, new off-the-shelf option for our beginner woodworking set. I do have plans to start building some projects with just Harbor Freight tools, our $100 set. I'm going to start building a couple projects here in upcoming videos. I've got a bunch of other stuff going on. If you can see in the background here, I've got a bunch of other stuff that I've been doing and working on, but it's been like 5 minutes here, 10 minutes here over the past few weeks. I'm sorry, I'm kind of all sporadic and all over the place, but it's been a very busy new year so far, and I have not had much time for like personal life or the channel or anything, so work's been a little nuts. So bear with me. I apologize that I've been a little skittish here so far this new year, but things are calming down and I should have some more time here soon. That and the fact that it's been like 4 degrees in Michigan, I'm wanting it to warm up just a little bit because I like to somewhat to have some feeling in my hands, and the heater's not even keeping up. So anyway, I'm rambling. This video is probably already really long and useless. So with that, I'll see you on the next one.